following program on Ada Derana 24 is classified for general audience. It is intended for all ages. It contains little or no violence, no strong language, and little or no sexual dialogue or situations.
A very good evening and thank you for joining us on tonight's special presentation here on Ada Derana 24. Today we're going to be talking about a very pertinent topic that affects every single one of us, and that's on taxation, specifically on the efforts by the government to hold a national tax week here in Sri Lanka, which is just underway. And to speak about this, we have two individuals that are actually best suited for this discussion. And let me please introduce the Commissioner for Inland Revenue Sri Lanka, that is Mr. Saman Dissanayake. So lovely having you on the program here today. Looking forward to it. And of course, the Additional Director General for Sri Lanka Customs, Mr. Sudatta Silva. So once again, lovely having you here on the program. Hopefully we can cover a lot of ground here today. So with these two gentlemen, I'm going to be embarking into a very specific area of the National Tax Week. Now I'm sure with all the promotion that the government has undergone with all of these national taxation policies, we would have all heard about it, but of course we want to get a bit more insight into it. So before we get into any of the specifics, I want a bit of a fundamental understanding and overview. So I'd like to start off with you, Mr. Commissioner, relating to the National Tax Week. Could you please tell us what exactly prompted the Inland Revenue Department to begin an initiative such as the National Tax Week, and also a little bit of an emphasis on the entire theme, which is basically your tax money for your benefit. Could you walk us through that, sir?
Yeah, Anuradhi. In this point, I think from the Inland Revenue side, we think about that tax compliance. We should have the revenue compliance plus return compliance. As a good taxpayer should act on the law. Taxpayer should comply with the law in two scenarios. One is paying taxes on or before due dates. On the other hand, submit the returns or furnish the return on or before due dates. Otherwise, we cannot recognize him as the good taxpayer. As always we discuss, tax compliance rate in Sri Lanka is somewhat low. Although Inland Revenue made huge effort on that, still we have that gap. On the other hand, to improve tax compliance in one side, Inland Revenue having another theme that to broaden the tax base. That means we need to increase our taxpayer cluster. Those are the two aims that with IRD, and already we are working on that two areas.
Exactly. So some of the main objectives is for the expansion and also to ensure healthy education in order to foster a better environment for taxpayers and basically healthier tax actions, basically, where people actually ensure they file and do their returns as well on time. So that tax health is what we're going to be focusing on a lot. I'd like to move on to you, Additional Director General of Customs. Sir, I want to ask you, when it comes to Sri Lanka Customs, how exactly is this? Of course, we know that the customs is one of the most, of the tripartite system, it's one of the most significant when it comes to collecting revenue as well. So can you tell us about how exactly the role of the customs as a revenue collection agency is being highlighted during National Tax Week?
Thank you, Anuradhi. If you look at the collection of revenue for the government of Sri Lanka, there are three main agencies. Out of the three main agencies, of course, the Inland Revenue Department comes as the first agency for the government. But Customs is also playing a very significant role because Customs collect almost 47% out of the tax revenue to the government. And when it comes to Customs taxation, it's always indirect taxes because the Inland Revenue is responsible to collect direct taxes. We collect indirect taxes. So what are the indirect taxes? Indirect taxes are the taxes collected from imports and exports of goods. Since as a developing country, Sri Lanka depends on these indirect taxes heavily, the government. As I said, we collect 47%. So during the tax week, the Revenue Management and Reforms Bureau, established under the Presidential Secretariat, identified the three main agencies, Inland Revenue, Customs and the Excise, as the three key government agencies to contribute during the tax week. So Customs as an agency collecting direct taxes from imports and exports, we decided to target our community, mainly the traders and the industrialists, those who pay taxes during when they import and export their raw material and other goods. So therefore, we have organized certain events, especially the awareness programs to the traders and industrialists during this week, aligning with the objectives of the tax week. Accordingly, we are conducting seminars to the traders and industrialists, and also we thought, in order to give awareness to the young generation, especially the university students and the school children, we have organized some seminars. In fact, we conducted the seminar for the university students yesterday, and a seminar for the advanced level students from the schools will be conducted on Friday. So what we thought, we will have a holistic approach, not only giving awareness to the traders, we will also educate the young generation how they can contribute to the tax revenue, and through that we are planning to increase the awareness, and through the awareness we expect that there will be additional contribution. In addition to that, we have also organized a tax clinic. If anyone having any issues with customs, and not only customs, because when it comes to imports and exports clearance, there are several other border regulatory agencies such as National Medicines Regulatory Authority, TRC, Telecommunication Regulatory Authority, Imports and Exports Control Department. So we invited 4 such border regulatory agencies. They are the key players when it comes to border regulation, and we have organized a tax clinic at customs headquarters. So anyone having any issue with customs or one of those 4 border regulatory agencies can walk in, and that tax clinic is also going to take place till Friday. So those are the activities of customs during the tax week to achieve the objectives of the tax week.
Exactly. I want to get into the specifics relating to, the practical, basically the mission that has been put forward by the tripartite system that we see, Excise Department, the IRD and also Customs, relating to how National Tax Week is going to be practically, in effect for individuals that are maybe taxpayers or even just traders and also businesses that are hoping to get understanding. Before we get into that, so you mentioned the very important aspect of seminars for individuals like, university students and A-level students as well. The question I want to get to is specifically for you, Mr. Commissioner, when it comes to the perception of taxation in Sri Lanka, it's often very negative. Tax is not viewed as something that is developmental or essential to Sri Lanka, but more of a negative nuisance of some sort that people have to go through. How exactly is the National Tax Week hoping to combat this negative, pessimistic approach to taxation within the minds of the people of Sri Lanka?
Yeah, Anuradhi, in this context, let me explain ecosystem in taxation. Because to have a very good tax culture or better tax culture, we should improve the ecosystem in taxation. What is ecosystem in taxation? As per our analysis, we can recognize ecosystem in taxation with all the role players in the tax system. In the inland revenue context, we can recognize tax legislator in one side, then we have tax administrator, then taxpayer, tax agent, and tax adjudicator. In addition to that, we have tax informant. You and me, everyone can play that role. That is very much important in the tax system. According to our analysis, tax legislation, if you consider tax legislation, if you consider last decade, how many tax changes happen which are relevant to the inland revenue? Very important thing is, inland revenue started Revenue Administration Management Information System from 1st January 2016. Now we are going parallel with the digitalization of the tax system. However, the big challenge is legislation changes. Not only the simple changes, those are big changes which cannot be afforded by the system. Therefore, our consent is tax legislation should be consistent, one scenario. On the other hand, administrator can do the doer part or collection part or implementation part properly. Therefore, main thing is our tax system should be consistent. In addition to that, when it's come to the taxpayers' side, they develop the systems in their side also to cater with the requirement. Then if after 1 year, if the system is changed, then that's a big challenge for them. Likewise. On the other hand, our concern is the major role that with the tax agents. In our tax context, we know our tax returns are somewhat complicated. System also complicated. Therefore, tax agent not only engage in the tax planning, they go beyond the tax planning. That is what our compliance rate is very low. Then on the other hand, revenue compliance also very low. What is the government expectation is, as we know, tax to GDP ratio. This year, we expect 15%. But if you remember, with the economic crisis, we were at 7.3. Then 2023, we were at 9.6. Last year, 12.4. Then I think to achieve that 15% of the GDP as tax revenue, then we have to increase the tax base, and also we have to increase the compliance rate through ecosystem. In addition to that, there is a role with the tax adjudicator. There are so many cases when you consider about the inland revenue waiting to give the decision, where the tax ambiguities are there. Argument with the taxpayer and tax authority regarding the gaps of the law or question of the law. Therefore, those points are very much important. In addition to that, we develop our new system under REMIS to share the information with the relevant agencies. Then sharing information through the interface agencies like Sri Lanka Customs, already we are doing. But there are so many agencies like RMV, Registrar General of Department, like that. Then we are in the process of developing that. According to our view, in addition to that, as a public, everyone having a responsibility to share the information who are the tax evaders. Therefore, to make it possible, we have in one side shorter processes or short-term processes like tax education, as yesterday we have done, as Mr. Silva highlighted, that we have done that seminar for the A-level students and university students to motivate them to make the tax culture, better tax culture. In addition to that, I think as Inland Revenue Department, we have utilized this 1 week period to make our effort to identify new taxpayers. Actually, today our teams are on the roads, selected areas, head office and all the regional office people doing the street survey to identify who are the taxpayers and also to improve the tax compliance in friendly manner. Therefore, one side, revenue authorities should act on that. In addition to that, tax education should be improved. Then only we can improve the tax compliance and revenue compliance and return compliance.
Exactly. I think, unfortunately, we do have to go in for a break because we have to go in for a short commercial break. But I want to touch on that area as well, tax education and also the initiatives that have been taken forward. For example, you know, how practical and on the ground the approach is right now when it comes to the National Tax Week as well. Before we get into specifics relating to the current context and how we're going to hope the National Tax Week actually ensures a healthy tax environment in Sri Lanka, let's take a short commercial break. You're watching Special Presentation. We'll be right back. Welcome back back to special presentation. We're in conversation with Mr. Samal Dissanayake, the Commissioner of the Inland Revenue Department of Sri Lanka, and Mr. Siddhartha Silva, the Additional Director General of Sri Lanka Customs. So we just finished talking about the overview, the fundamentals of National Tax Week and what the departments hope to achieve with this tax week, the awareness and also fostering a better environment for tax collection in Sri Lanka. So moving on, so we got an understanding on the tax ecosystem. I want to talk about the customs specifically now. Mr. Additional Director General, I wanted to ask you about the digital transformation aspect. When it comes to this government specifically, we see a very pertinent role that has been put when it comes to the digital transformation aspect. Digitization is a big deal for this government specifically. How exactly is that translating to the taxation environment, specifically in Sri Lanka Customs?
That's a very pertinent question as far as the changes which took place within Customs recently. In fact, Anuradhi, we started the automation way back in 1993. Sri Lanka Customs is one of the first government agencies to start the automation. We came a long way for more than 25 years, and as a result, I can say we have reached almost 95% of digitalization of customs processes. To give you a few achievements, when you import goods or export goods, you have to come to customs with a declaration of what you are importing or exporting. So this declaration was always submitted manually in paper document. In 2011, we created a platform called Asikuda for the traders to submit their customs declaration online, real time. Then in 2012, we also developed the platform for the shipping agents, the cargo transporting companies, freight forwarders and shipping agents to submit the cargo manifest to our system digitally, real time. Then in 2017, we offered online payment of taxes, and we pioneered in the government sector by working with LankaPay and introducing the platform to collect the government payments online. So I can say our digitalization, which took place over for more than 25 years, have matured to a level that I can claim that we have completed for almost 95%. But what's the left part? What else we can do?
The 5%.
The 5%. Of course, what we talk about in the modern customs is paperless clearance. Right now, even if we offer the online submission of CUSDEC, we still request the trader to bring the hard copy to our document processing center. So the next step is to go for paperless. In order to do that, Anuradhi, we also pioneered introducing the digital signature in submission of the electronic documents, which we launched somewhere in 2019. So although the environment is now in place, hardware and software, there are certain legal challenges. So once we come through all these legal challenges, and there's a little bit of further software development. We recently launched during the launching of the tax week at the Presidential Secretariat. We launched our new application called ASEAN, which provides us the opportunity to allow the importers to lodge their customs declaration before the arrival of the goods. So this is another improvement as far as the efficiency is concerned. So all this digitalization finally contributes to the efficient release of goods by customs. I don't want to stop what we have done so far. I want to talk about the national effort. After the new government came into power, one of the main focus areas, the digitalization of the nation, the national digitalization program. The government established separate entities, separate ministry for that. They invited the experts to join. So there is a government effort to go for national public infrastructure, public digital infrastructure, PDI. So what we are now trying to do is to align with the holistic government approach without working in silos, to have our system also integrated with the national system. And in order to do that, the Ministry of Finance has launched the project called National Single Window. A national single window is a project where we bring all the government agencies responsible for giving border approvals in one platform. So when the trader is processing its documents and its requirements, the trader will enter the national single window through one single entry point, whereas all the government agencies will work together in the digital platform, provide all the services through the same window. And that will be the ultimate which we are trying to reach as a digital nation.
So essentially, we hope to see in the future through these refinement efforts that taxation and just customs declarations and even just the clearance process in itself will have much less encumbrances, therefore leading to less of a resistance from people and also more enthusiasm towards declarations and also collecting of the revenue. I want to move on, sir, relating to the aspect of when it comes to a chain in taxation, we always have a few loose ends and a few lapses. Unfortunately, we don't have a streamlined system as of yet, even though it's in development. How exactly does the department plan to bring in when it comes to informal businesses, maybe SMEs, and also certain unregistered income earners? How do you plan through this tax week and through these tax initiatives to bring them into the system?
Yeah, Anuradhi, already Inland Revenue has made some effort to capture the shadow economy, where if we consider the shadow economy in Sri Lankan context, that as per the recorded information, we have around 40% shadow economy. Then big challenge with the IRD also to capture them. I think you well aware that from 2024, there was a plan to have tax identification number for people who are above the 18 years. Original plan was to issue the TIN for the around 16 million people prior to 31st December 2023. That means 1st January 2024, everyone should have the TIN who are 18 plus. That is one process. Why that TIN for 18 plus people? That is very important process that Inland Revenue started, because when the transaction happening anywhere, then we have to capture that transaction through a unique ID. Then Inland Revenue should have a unique ID which to collect information from the information providing agencies like that. Actually, with the REMIS, we started the REMIS information module to capture that. Already we have post-registration process for the taxpayers. Our head office having separate unit for that, and also in the regional offices also we have that effort. Therefore, this process is going on. In addition to that, out of that TIN registration, we try to capture the transaction with the people and get the information relevant to their income to capture the their tax liability. That is the process going on. Therefore, we have another processes that collecting information from the information agencies which have identified with the risk areas, and also we bother about that collecting the information relevant to the assets. Because I think people can hide the revenues, but people cannot hide the assets. Therefore, as taxpayers should provide the asset and liability declaration every year, then we are planning and we are make effort to collect the details from the asset side and to capture the shadow economy. In addition to that, transaction also we consider for the making tax files and opening tax file through the transactions where the big value transactions are happening. Those are the processes that we have started for that. In addition to that, we have investigation for separate units we have. Then we have some kind of the informant who are already existing. Then we take the information from them also.
So the previously mentioned ecosystem will come into play when it comes to identifying and also ensuring that there is better engagement with the tax system through the people of Sri Lanka. A similar question, Alain, to you, sir. When it comes to customs specifically, what role does customs play when it comes to identifying the taxable goods and also revenue leakages, of course, at certain border points? You mentioned the platform that we hope to bring all the officers into in order to ensure traders have a convenient access to it. Could you please tell us about how exactly customs will identify leakage points when it comes to specifically border points and under-reportings?
Anuradhi, when it comes to customs, we talk about taxation because it's tax week, but there are two main functions. Border protection is one of the main functions of customs. Especially in developed countries, border protection is the main function for customs for them. But since we are a developing country, we focus on tax revenue, and so we give more focus to the tax collection. So therefore, we have to look at both aspects. When it comes to border protection, we have to ensure that prohibited and restricted goods are not entering or leaving country, and also the relevant taxes are paid at the border. If you look at only the tax component, the major challenge we are facing right now is the undervaluation, or you also call it under-invoicing. And that's one of the main area we have identified many tax evasions or underpayment happens. Then also misdescription of goods, because there is a coding system called HS codes. Sometimes some fraudulent traders, they try to manipulate the HS codes, or sometimes misdescribe, like you can bring a high tax commodity concealed within a low tax commodity, because sometimes most of the food items like dal, lentils, then similar goods, and there are like ginger. Ginger has a very high tax and it's a prohibited item right now, but then people try to smuggle it within dal or big onion. So therefore, we have identified the vulnerable areas, and in order to address the undervaluation, we are in the process of acquiring an automated application called Automated Risk Management application. We are in the process of procuring it, and as a first phase, during the tax week, we launch the analytical tool of this automated risk management system. And now we are able to provide dashboards to the senior management and the operational officers, through which they can always have their statistics analyzed, and based on the statistics, they can always compare the values declared to customs of a particular import and raise, say, red flag if they suspect undervaluation. But in the near future, that will be totally automated through the automated risk management system. Then also, when it comes to misdescription, what we did, we developed our capacity of our enforcement officers. As a result, I can give you the statistics later of our achievements during last 2 years. One area we focused to develop the capacity of our enforcement officers. The enforcement officers had a remarkable increase of the detections, and especially when it comes to misdescription and misclassification, it's only through physical intervention you can detect it. As I mentioned, we have the scanners, we have the scanners through which we can always see the image of the contents in a container, but sometimes when it comes to organic material, the scanner is also not capable enough of differentiating it. And sometimes some of these smuggled goods are organic material concealed together. So we have to have some kind of physical intervention, and even the physical intervention is not a haphazard physical intervention. There is a thorough risk analysis, and through the risk analysis they target the high risk containers for extra physical examination. And that's how we tackle the smuggling and how we are trying to reach the higher recovery of revenue.
Exactly. I think it's important to note the boost in productivity when it comes to all of these departments specifically, as well as you mentioned, the productivity of customs workers and officers in order to ensure that it's a smooth sailing ship and it's a tightly run ship. Specifically on that point, Commissioner, I'd like to get some information relating to how exactly the three departments are, the Excise Department, Inner Revenue Department, and also Customs, is actually communicating to ensure a smooth process for revenue collection specifically. I want to talk about those specifics, but before we get into the integrities on that, let's take a very short commercial break. You're watching Special Presentation. We'll be right back with the final segment. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Special Presentation. We're in our final segment in conversation with Mr. Saman Dissanayake, the Commissioner for Inland Revenue Sri Lanka, and also Mr. Siddhartha Silva, the Additional Director General of Sri Lanka Customs. I believe, gentlemen, we had a very good discussion previously. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, even though there's quite a few areas that we have to discuss. But let's get to the very specific question that I wanted to ask you before we left off on the break, which is on the communication aspect of the tripartite system of these three departments. Can you tell us, it's not just the National Tax Week, what exactly has been underway when it comes to development in ensuring better communication between these three revenue collection agencies? Commissioner, I'd like for you to start off on this question for us.
Yeah, as an inland revenue, we have direct link with the custom and our interface agency under REMIS, and we got the information from the customs. We have a daily updation process, and based on that information, we check the import and export which are relevant to the taxpayers' files and get the information, not only for the income tax purpose, that is for the other taxes like VAT and SSCL. In addition to that, with the Excise Department also, already we have made some effort to have the direct link. The process is going on to develop that. As a three revenue organization, we are going to work together, and already custom and IRD working together. In addition to that, our officials, when the official side, we have improved their capacity to get the information from the customs like that and to analyze them when they are doing the audits, tax related audits. And on the other hand, in our HR development unit, they do the continuous development for capacity building of the officers to have that communication. And some of the international trainings also having with the capacity. Then our officials are capable on taking the information from both Excise Department and Customs, especially when the excise related information needed. We are communicating with the Excise Department and getting the information on the mutual procedure.
So what we see is, in the current context, there is an establishment of a smooth line of communication between the departments, and we can expect for better processes, more productive activity when it comes to revenue collection specifically. Yes. So I'd like to move on to...
Add to
yes, please do add on.
Because Anuradhi, when we started our automation, we identified that someday customs will have to integrate with the IRD. Yeah. That is why from the inception itself, since 1993, we are using the same tax identification number what IRD is using as the tax identification number at customs. Because we did that, since 2004, we started sharing the VAT collection information with IRD. Although VAT is a direct tax, part of it we collect indirectly. So at the border, we collect part of the VAT and communicate that information to IRD electronically since 2004. In 2017, we also integrated our Asikuda system with the RAMI system. Now it is a fully integrated system where the customs system transfer the VAT information, not only VAT, all the import information to IRD, specifically the VAT portion what we have collected on behalf of IRD. So that is one of the main improvements we did. I want to make it short. The second one I want to highlight is what we have planned during the tax week. With the assistance of the Presidential Secretariat, we are now in the process of devising a mechanism to identify specific transactions where if there is any under-invoicing or underpayment of taxes at the border at customs, we will communicate that information, specific transactions, to IRD in order to IRD to enable investigate such transactions specifically and track down whether they declare the correct information to IRD, because if you under invoice, you make more profit. So whether at least they pay profit, the direct taxes against their corporate earning. So that's a specific program. We are in the process of developing the SOP, Standard Operating Procedure. When it is established, the two agencies will be working together. That might bring some efficiency. One more important thing, the transfer pricing. The multinational companies are sometimes involved in transfer pricing. And what happens, they study the tax structure in every country. When the border taxes are less, they tend to overvalue and declare less profits to the inland revenue. When the border taxes are high, they under invoice and show higher profit, because they do a comparison of the tax, the total taxable amount, whether it is more at the border or whether it is more at the direct taxation, and adjust the price, adjust the value accordingly. We call it transfer pricing. So in the future, we will be collaborating between the two agencies in order to address the transfer pricing issue.
So we can hope to see quite a few, specifically the fact that IRD and Customs will have to be intrinsically involved, and has been mostly so far, and the fact that we have somewhat of a system that's put in place, especially with the tax identification numbers that have already been, in collaboration. So that only leads me to my next question, which is the results and the effort of a tax week, a national tax week. Commissioner, can you tell us exactly, beyond just this week, how does the revenue collection departments ensure that healthy tax environments can be maintained and ensured? Of course, 1 week of education is unfortunately going to fall on most deaf ears, because we have to keep continuing to educate the public and also keep them aware about healthy practices when it comes to taxation, and also even internally when it comes to revenue collection. So could you please tell us about maybe policy changes that we can expect moving forward, or even what we can see as permanent changes that can start to develop through the result of a tax week such as this?
Anuradhi, as I highlighted at the beginning, to get the ultimate results, we should have the proper ecosystem in taxation. For each and every component of that ecosystem is important. Therefore, as a long-term process, Inland Revenue has started digitalization with the REMIS, and as I highlighted, now we are in the process. Through REMIS, we get the information from the relevant agencies. We are open for the taxpayers to file their return online and also pay their taxes online. Already the platform is ready, but the process that we have to do and the efficiency of the system is depend on who are the users. Then very important thing is we are in the process that, but who are the users should involve with the process. Therefore, for the long-term results, I think we should engage in the system. Therefore, there are responsibilities with all the components that I highlighted as the role players. Then, as a legislator, legislation should be consistent. Then, tax administrator should be well educate the staff and everyone to work with that. And on the other hand, taxpayer and tax agent should have the responsibility to work with the system. Otherwise, we are in trouble. On the other hand, regarding big process that we have in the legal jargon, where the appeal procedure, then legal changes should be made to short the period to get the ultimate results. Sometimes taxpayer submit the return, Inland Revenue make an assessment, issue is with the court proceedings, then lengthy period is with that process. Then other number of year of assessment also having same issue like that. Therefore, those limitations should be corrected while digitalization is going on. And we have to depend on the information. Now we are on the information process.
Exactly. Is there anything that you'd like to add as a final remarks for this?
Anuradhi, most of the Sri Lankans have obtained their education through the government schools. Most of the Sri Lankans, they have their health services through government hospitals. We all travel on the same roads.
Yes.
All these things are done by the government through this tax money. So our fathers, grandfathers contributed to the revenue of the government. What they contributed, we enjoyed as our education, as our health services. So it is my responsibility now to pay the correct taxes to the government. It's not for myself, it's for the future generation. So if you are a patriotic person who thinks of the country, who thinks of the economic growth of the country, who thinks of the development of the country and a prosperous nation, please pay your tax correctly. Don't uninvoice, don't misdescribe what you import, pay your taxes at customs correctly. That's my very humble request to the trading community and those are responsible for paying their taxes at customs.
Exactly, and that I believe is the perfect note for us to unfortunately wrap up this discussion, because we have run out of time, even though there's quite a bit more that we can have discussed. Maybe we can join back again later on with other tax efforts and incentives and initiatives that the departments are going to be putting forward in the future, hopefully. Unfortunately, that's all we have to show you tonight here on a special presentation. If you had missed this program, you can always rewatch. And thank you very much for taking the time to actually listen to this discussion. And as you heard, please do invoice responsibly and be a patriotic member of society with taxation. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.